Innovation. You hear that word everywhere, right? But how do you actually build an organization that lives and breathes it? Well, it's not about some kind of magic or just getting lucky. Nope. It's about a specific mindset, a certain culture, and a set of practical tools. So let's get right into it. We're going to break down the key insights from some of the top thinkers and build a practical playbook you can start using, like today. And look, this is nothing new. Way back in 2010, CEOs were already saying it loud and clear. Creativity is the ultimate competitive advantage. It's not some fluffy, soft skill. It's the absolute lifeblood of survival in a world that is always, always changing. This isn't just a nice-to-have, people. It's a mandate. So here's our game plan. We'll start with why this is so dang critical. Then we'll shift our perspective to see the bigger picture. After that, we're heading into the engine room, the practical how-to stuff, before we look at the culture that makes it all possible. And we'll wrap it all up with your own personal playbook. All right, first up, the creativity mandate. Let's just be real for a second. In today's economy, if you're standing still, you're falling behind. Innovation is no longer a choice. It's a flat-out necessity. And it's really important to get this. Innovation doesn't always mean some single earth-shattering breakthrough. I mean, it can be a small improvement, a little tweak in a process that saves a bunch of time and money. Or, yeah, it can be a massive, radical shift. Both are absolutely vital for building an advantage that lasts. But here's the thing. To find those opportunities for innovation, whether they're big or small, you gotta change how you look at the world. You have to stop looking at the individual little pieces of your business and start thinking in whole systems. So what exactly is systems thinking? Well, it means you stop looking at each department or each process like it's in its own little silo. Instead, it's about understanding that everything is connected. And a lot of the time, the relationships between the parts are way more important than the individual parts themselves. Okay, check out this story. It's a perfect example of systems thinking in action. So instead of one company trying to solve a problem on its own, 6 different utilities teamed up. They didn't just tweak their own operations, no, they created this huge incentive, this golden carrot that basically reshaped an entire market by pushing manufacturers to innovate. Now that's the power of seeing the whole system. You know, this kind of thinking really challenges our assumptions, including our assumptions about something as basic as this. Where do the best ideas even come from? We tend to think innovation flows from rich, developed markets out to the rest of the world. But what if we've got that completely backwards? So the crucial point here is this shift from traditional to what we call reverse innovation. The old way, you'd create a fancy, high-end product for, say, the US or Europe, and then you'd strip it down. You'd de-feature it for emerging markets. Reverse innovation completely flips that on its head. You innovate for the unique needs and constraints of an emerging market first, and then you adapt that brilliant, often more affordable and rugged solution for the rest of the world. I mean, just look at GE's portable ECG machine. It was developed specifically to meet the demands of the Indian market. It had to be tough, portable, and super affordable. But guess what? It was so effective and so well designed that it's now sold everywhere, proving how this reverse innovation thing can create massive global value. Okay, so we've got the mindset. We're thinking in systems. Now let's get our hands dirty and get into the engine room. How do we actually power innovation day to day? What are the mechanisms that really make it happen? At the very heart of the engine is experimentation. And I just love this quote from Stephen Thomke because it totally reframes what failure means. See, an experiment that fails isn't a waste of time. It's a success in learning. Finding out what doesn't work is just as valuable as finding out what does, especially if you can learn it fast and cheap. This learning mindset has totally changed how companies do research and development. The old model, think of Bell Labs, was this closed system, get all the smartest people in a building and just hope for a stroke of genius. The new model, which companies like Cisco really champion, is wide open. It's all about collaboration, partnering with universities, licensing tech, even working with your competitors. It's a recognition that great ideas can come from literally anywhere. So if you want to speed up that engine, Scott Anthony gives us 5 awesome tactics. It kicks off with small, agile teams that learn directly from the market. But the real key is changing what you measure. You've got to focus on learning, not just early results. And that means you tie your funding to how much risk you're reducing, and you make sure the leaders calling the shots are people who have experience guiding projects through all that uncertainty. Of course, the most powerful engine in the world won't run with the right fuel and the right environment. And that brings us to culture, the soil where innovation either grows or withers on the vine. Okay, the absolute number one non-negotiable foundation of an innovative culture is psychological safety. Amy Edmondson's work here is so important. Think about it. If people are afraid to share a half-baked idea, or to admit a mistake, or to challenge the way things have always been done, you will never get true innovation. Leaders have to intentionally build an environment where it's safe to be vulnerable and to try things. This shift also means we have to evolve how we think about motivation. Daniel Pink's framework here is perfect. The old carrot and stick approach, or Motivation 2.0, it works okay for simple, routine tasks. But for creative, complex work, it totally fails. We need Motivation 3.0, which taps into what really drives us, our need for autonomy, for mastery, and for purpose. Building on that idea, Josh Linkner gives us a fantastic cultural checklist. And yeah, it includes things you'd expect, like fostering autonomy and celebrating ideas. But check out the tougher ones. Encourage courage to take those risks, truly embrace this idea of failing forward as a tool for learning, and maximize diversity. And not just of people, but of thought and experience. That's huge. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. The mindset, the engine, the culture. Now let's boil all of this down into a final, actionable playbook for you as a leader. So what are the non-negotiables for you as a leader? It really comes down to this. You have to be the one asking, what if? You have to be the one to model that failure is just part of learning. And you have to create the spaces for ideas to be shared and then go get the top-level sponsorship they need to actually survive. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. And it's a direct challenge. The goal isn't just to put up with failure, it's to actively hunt for the learning that it provides. So my question for you is this. What intelligent risk, what calculated experiment, what potential failure will you actively encourage on your team this week with the specific goal of learning something new faster?